when less than the whole property is taken, such as when there's a partial taking or the taking of an easement, then there's another thing to consider, and that is severance damages. And severance damages means that sometimes the nature of a project affects the value of the land that's left over after the government comes in and takes a chunk of it away. And a lot of times this comes down to a question of what exactly is the government doing with the chunk of land that they take away. Let's, for example, say that the property owner has a very nice house, $500,000 house on a nice big 2-acre lot. And that lot is situated close to a 2-lane highway. Well, government comes in and says, hey, we want to expand this to a 4-lane highway, and we're going to have to take away an acre of your lot, an acre of your land, and now there's going to be a large road running, 150 feet from your front door. Whereas before there was a nice big setback, a 2-lane highway, now there's a minuscule setback and a 4-lane highway. Well, you might think that most buyers of a $500,000 house, all things being equal, are going to want a little bit of setback between themselves and the cars and trucks whizzing by. And it's entirely possible that you would be 100% correct if you thought that way. Well, in this case, we have what are called severance damages. In other words, how much is the value of that house and the value of the remaining real estate, the remaining land, how much is it diminished because it's become undesirable due to the fact that a 4-lane highway is right outside the door. Another situation is, let's say the highway doesn't come quite so close to the house, but the builders of the highway, when they change it to a 4-lane highway, raise it way, way up. Now, if you come out of your house in the morning and you have to look up 25 feet in the air to the road, you might find that a little bit overpowering. Most people like to come out and see a view shed or a view of the horizon and the trees and this and that. And if the view out of your house is simply a slope up to a large highway with trucks and everything like that whizzing by, it may very well be that a typically motivated buyer would pay less for the house down in the valley, so to speak, than for the house with a smaller road at grade. And once again, that calculation would involve a calculation of severance damages, or how much has the remainder of the property been reduced because of the road being raised. One last example of severance damages, let's say that the company that's condemning the land comes in and they want to build high voltage power lines that go right through the property. And those power lines, let's say for whatever reason, they run them right over the roof of the $500,000 house. Now, I'm not saying this happens, I'm not saying it doesn't happen. It's a hypothetical example. Now the question is, how much would a typically motivated and knowledgeable buyer, how much would they pay for the house with the high voltage power lines running over it versus how much would they pay for the exact same house but just without any power lines? Do you think they'd pay less for the house with the power lines running straight over the roof? Maybe they would. If that were the case and you could prove it in a court of law, then that diminution in value would be recoverable as part of the just compensation available under law. Anyway, as you can see, there are many, many nuances and nooks and crannies to this interesting corner of the law that we call eminent domain law. And in order to have your specific case competently evaluated, you need to show it to a lawyer who's capable of giving you legal advice. I can't do that. I can give you some general information about how the law works. But I sure hope that it helps and it has shed some light on what I personally consider to be a fascinating area of the law. Once again, I'm Eric Olson from Eminent Domain Services, LLC.